Well, how did the day go? Monday is usually the day, as I say. After perhaps a little weekend break, we have to meet the marketplace. And oftentimes Monday, we meet it head on. We have a lot of emails to catch up with, phone calls we have to make, and we have to basically set the tone for the week that is ahead of us. How do you measure how you did today? You look at your schedule, you look at some of your goals and intentions. Now it's the end of the day. How did the day go? But perhaps there's a bigger question that we need to think about, and this is a good day to at least get a short conversation going. How do you measure yourself? I just read a significant article about the importance of metrics. You've all heard that. Well, what are you measuring? What are the metrics? What are your metrics you're trying to make? We are told that all the time. But perhaps when it comes to us and our life and our business and perhaps our spirit, what are some of the measurements that we have? Well, I'd just like to take about 10 or 12 minutes, maybe a little bit longer on this Monday evening because, it's been a long day, just to think about and perhaps suggest some metrics, some measurements that might work for us that will make life go better for us. Let's see if we can have that conversation. I'm Stan Houston. You are in tune with radio that takes you to the edge. It's radio right now. It's radio that will help you do it right. The Jesus Entrepreneur, the Christian Entrepreneur Network, and we're on right now. My name is Stan Houston, and I am graced that you are one of my guests, that I have been able to have the opportunity, maybe even a little bit of the ability to come on internet radio. We call this program the Jesus Entrepreneur. We've kind of figured out how we can do internet on-demand radio, sometimes called podcast, something that perhaps all of you, at least at some time in your experience the next few years, will have to learn a little bit about. It will become one of the prime marketing mediums, not just on Mondays, but every day. And in our work as the Christian Entrepreneur Network, we're going to have that as one of the 7 services that we provide that will help you make your mark in this internet-connected experience economy. We want you as a Christian entrepreneur to certainly start up and to survive, and that's hard to do. Then we want you to thrive and flourish and make that happen for you. So what we like to do is take a few minutes, usually 5 or 6 times a week, for a little podcast, which we simply call Join the Tribe of the Jesus Entrepreneurs, and to perhaps make your contribution to the program. We want you to be a guest, no matter what. We have a place for you where you can share some of your wit, your good sense of humor, and your wisdom, insight, and truth, and we would like that. You can check us all out at our new emerging website. Things are really going now, tcenglobal.org, tcenglobal.org. You'll begin to see how we hang out. We have a new internet book coming out toward the end of this week. We've been working on it. It's a 30-page book. As I oftentimes say, you can find a great 30-page book, but unfortunately they may have crammed it into 300 pages. We put it down to 30 pages, and it's the 7 power principles, the prayer and the 7 power principles of how you can be fully alive and be successful as a Jesus-led Christian entrepreneur. I think you're going to find it helpful and useful, and we'll make sure that you can get a copy of that as it begins to emerge in its electronic media, Kindle format, and other ways form. So we'll go from there. And that, what you just heard, is, of course, an indication of how things are changing, because This radio program is not being done in my usual, very refined studio in Tucson, Arizona. I'm up in the upper Midwest of Minneapolis, St. Paul, and going to Sioux Falls, South Dakota, talking to a number of people about supporting and participating in the Christian Entrepreneur Network. And so this is simply a portable studio which I'm able to carry with me. But I'm in a friend's home, and that was George the dog, who decided that he also wanted to be a part of the radio program, and so he made himself known. And I think that's just great. It's real radio right now, radio on the edge. And certainly we are on the edge as we move forward. What I'd like to do today is, again, because it's Monday, try and keep it short, but a couple of things came to me which were kind of fun. And George just walked in. He's going to walk in the studio now and watch things happen. We'll see if he wants to talk, but he's with us now. And so that's working out just real well. As I said, this is a right now on the air studio. Eventually his master, in perhaps a day or two, David, will be here to talk about exactly something we're going to talk about in just a few minutes. I was with my good friend Joe Pine, man who basically discovered the experience economy, one of our teachers, an incredible strategic thinker, leader, co-leader of Strategic Horizons. And we kind of had a joke. We went together to church. I'm literally one of his former teachers. He's one of my former students. Had a good time. And I said, remember Star Trek, which we all loved so much? Remember that in the Star Trek that the doors opened by themselves, and the computers, you could talk to them and they would talk back. He said, yeah. And I said, and that was supposedly in the 25th century. Remember that? In the 25th century, they had doors that would open by themselves and computers that could talk. And who would have ever thought that something like that would be extraordinarily common right here, just at the very start of the 21st century? Which makes you wonder, what will the 25th century really be like? If by God's grace or understanding or timing, we actually go into the future that far. But it does show that things are changing so rapidly. And as Joe and I were pointed out, it's hard right now to even do any strategic planning. Remember, you used to take courses and classes, and perhaps you hired high-priced consultants, maybe someone like me, to do a strategic planning thing? That's kind of a waste of time now. How can you even begin to think about how you can forecast or plan very far in the future? Who knows what's going to happen? And your forecast probably won't work, and your plans probably will have to change. So how do you make things happen in the 21st century? Well, that's just one of a number of things we have to think about and be concerned about. But we also got into the point that perhaps some of our good ideas, and I shared with him a good idea, and he liked that, and then I pointed out that I had gotten it from somebody else. And he said, well, a number of my good ideas I got from somebody else too. In fact, that's the way the world works. And what happened, I wish I could give her, I believe it was a her, more credit, but a little quote flew by me. And what it was very simple. It said, I used to measure myself in pounds, but I don't do that anymore. I measure myself in strengths. Aha. One of the key things that we're going to be talking about, one of our key contributors, David, who is the owner of George, he's a strengths finder guru. What he wants to do is come into your life, particularly through the Christian Entrepreneur Network, and help you discover what you really are good at, because everybody's good at something. Everybody's strong at something. The only problem is many of us don't know what we're good at. And the even worse problem is if we do, we may not be in the place and the space and the context and in the job where we can do what we're strong at. Just doesn't happen. Usually we're in places that we just kind of fell into. That job showed up and we took it, and it was a comfortable job in some respects, and it paid kind of well, and we just kind of got used to it. And even though we weren't really planning this for a career or a long-time job, we just kind of landed up in it, and that's where we are. And sometimes we land up there for a long time. And sometimes that's helpful, sometimes it's not. I do remember, and I use the story that from my book, where I helped a woman who said that she was just kind of tired of work in the industry she was at after 30 years, just tired of it. She was able to take a early retirement, got involved in another activity working with children just as a volunteer. She was so good at it, she was offered a leadership role in the organization, a very fulfilling and flourishing second career. And I remember she said to me, "Stan, I should have done this 30 years ago. Stan, I have no regrets, but a little. I should have done this 30 years ago." Well, what are we strong at? And what I would simply like to do in the few minutes left to me tonight on Monday, just some suggestions of maybe the way we ought to do our metrics. First of all, I would suggest, as someone has said, is one of the measurements of your day is how many times do you say thank you and I am grateful. Would you keep a mental track of that sometimes? How many times do you say thank you, I am grateful? How many times can you actually say that you complimented and said something encouraging to another person? How many steps do you take? Oftentimes we say, walk tall and walk a lot. That's good for your mind, good for your health, good for your spirit. And you know what? People notice when you walk strong, when you walk with a little extra step in what you do, when there seems to be a little bit more energy and a little bit walking tall, the old cowboy style. Do you kind of measure yourself in how you do that? How many things in a day do you just simply make a decision? You don't take a long time. You don't put it off. You are getting better at taking the situation and making your mark and making your decision and doing that. Maybe that's some of the metrics you ought to put into your life. How many times do you pray a day? Now, I'm not saying that you literally, formally pray, whatever that might be, but how many times do you just kind of bring to mind the gifts and the grace of the Lord and just kind of say, thank you, I'm grateful. Whenever I see somebody who is in trouble on the highway, on the road, I just right now always say a prayer for them. Do you say a prayer for your children during the day? Do you pray for your customers and clients during the day? How often do you do that? Hey, of course, I'm just rambling. But all I'm seeking to do for you is to say, I think for the most part they put the wrong metrics in our life. How much money did you make? How much hours did you bill? We're all held to those metrics, and we can't avoid them. We're in the marketplace. It's a capitalist performance economy, and we have to perform, and we have to make our marks, and we have to make our metrics. But I would just simply ask you, I think that was nice. Do you measure yourself in pounds, or do you measure yourself in fitness? Do you measure yourself in energy? Do you measure yourself in how much movement you make? How much exercise you get? Let the pounds take care of themselves. Measure your activities. Measure the things that you can truly have some control over. How do you do your Monday metrics? How do you do your metrics every day? The reason I'm saying this is when I read that, I decided that, I've thought about this before, but I ought to refresh my mind and spirit And because we're making some major changes in our life and business, we're trying to get a number of things out, get books done, radio programs, people connected. I need to be a little bit more careful about my performance metrics, but perhaps I ought to also give some time and attention to the metrics of soul and spirit and mind and relationships and character and good humor and learning and insight and wisdom, some of the metrics that really matter. Perhaps on Monday we can think about metrics that matter. Just something to think about. Just let it sit on your head for the rest of the evening, and perhaps bring it back from time to time through the week. I think perhaps a little consciousness of that may mean that when we hit Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, we may have actually accomplished something much more than we usually did, and perhaps much more worthwhile than we usually are. I'm Stan Houston. This is Radio on the Edge. Join the tribe of the Jesus Entrepreneurs. We're glad that you're with us. We'll be back. And one of the measurements this program has is how often can we help people like you? And as we're continuing to grow, we have a guest tomorrow. More and more, I want people like you who have your wisdom, your insight, and your truth. You have something to share, something about God's Spirit, the marketplace, how to be effective, how to sell, how to do those things that will make it right. And you'd like to share that with me. RadioEdge77@gmail.com, RadioEdge77@gmail.com. That's how you reach me. And we'll have a conversation, and who knows, I may be taking this portable microphone and this portable radio studio right into your office someday, and we might have a radio program conversation right in your place, right in your space. And if not, we'll do it by the magic of the Internet-connected experience economy. We'd love to have you on the program and have you a part of that. And part of my metrics are, how many people do I take time to shut up and listen to and share their wisdom with you? I'm Stan Houston. Thank you for all you do. Would love to hear from you. All the best and blessings, and I want to say that a lot. Best and blessings. Say it a lot. To you. And bye for now.